heart of hearts, I knew that like far enough into this YouTube series, I would be taking this very expensive piece of camera equipment and putting it in my fridge. But it's worth it because peaches. And today we're gonna make peach bread, which is like banana bread, but with peaches, which is good because this one, I must have dropped it somewhere. It's a little bit worse for the wear, which is why we're rescuing it and baking with it. Also, I don't know if I told you, but when I moved, I have like my pantry back there. I have my plates above the sink because life would be hard if plates weren't above the dishwasher. And then this cabinet, I very intentionally made my baking stuff all on the first shelf so I can easily get to it. And then more baking stuff and my bean collection on the second shelf. And then all the appliances that I want to use but I don't use all the time on the third shelf. And it just made baking so much easier. And this is where I do that lecture that it wouldn't be a trip to my pantry without me lecturing you about the kitchen scale. So this is $13.95. It is linked on my Amazon. It is linked on my blog. It'll just make your baking so much more accurate. And if you're like, but a cup is a cup is a cup is a cup, I thought that too, until I realized that flour, sugar, really anything, you can pack it into a cup or you can lightly tap it into a cup, and then your cup is varying in mass or matter. My science teacher would not be really proud of me from 8th grade, but I was in honors, so matter. But your cup is then filled with, it could range from like 120 grams to 160 grams, and those variables are crazy. I never took it that seriously until I started developing recipes, and I saw that 10 grams of flour made such a difference. And I try to give you my best cups guesstimates so that you can make it too if you don't have a scale. But you should really get a scale. It stops me from worrying that your recipe won't turn out, because I do worry about you. I worry about every blog comment I get. You'd be surprised. Now, the first thing I'm going to do by weight is chop up about 330 grams of peaches. And since we are mimicking banana bread, we're chopping them into mashed banana texture. So this recipe is really good for summer because the peaches are like falling apart and they're already pretty close to mashed banana texture. So sometimes they're a little bit firmer, like this one's a little firm. And so that means we'll just have to chop it really nicely to make sure that it's all as mashed as it can be. I hate when the pits do this. I know it's just the pit being popped in half. My question is, why does that happen? It's been happening in a lot of my stone fruit lately. And then the same way you would with like dicing an onion, just gonna slowly work it into a mashed up texture. Oh, and this is a good time for like a little knife skill tutorial. I learned this from the book Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat. I feel like you could learn a million things from that book. But to finely chop herbs or really do anything on a cutting board that involves a really, really fine dice, I like to hold my knife like this, put a hand flat on it, let the knife be on the cutting board and you never pick it up, and then just go back and forth. And we're getting pretty close to done. Since I am proud to be an American, I'm going to measure these peaches into a cup. 330 grams of peaches. We shall see what Uncle Sam says that is in the imperial system. Okay, 1 cup of peaches. This looks like a 1/4 because there is no way in hell I'm telling you in a recipe to do 1 cup and 3 tablespoons of peaches. That would be arguably unpatriotic. 1 1/4 cup. I'm realizing this is the first time we're browning butter on the channel, which is exciting, but also you're gonna see this process happen a lot. I feel like I should make it like a theme song for it or something. But browning butter, I could talk about it for forever, but it's really not that interesting. You're just toasting the milk solids that are in butter. When I say it's not that interesting, the first time in my life that I had ever browned butter, which by the way, we're doing a stick of butter over medium heat, I just thought the entire butter, because it's a solid yellow color, I thought all of the butter was going to turn brown. And then I was kind of surprised when I saw the clarified butter, which is like the transparent liquid part, separate from the milk solids, which turned into little flecks. I was really surprised when I saw those separate and saw that only the milk solids got brown, because nobody had really prepared me for that. Like every recipe I read just said, put the butter over medium heat, 2 to 4 minutes, let it brown. But what's actually happening is you're putting the butter over medium heat for 2 to 4 minutes, but you're letting the butter separate so that the 22% of the butter that is moisture, which is water, which is pretty cool, starts to evaporate off. So this 113 grams of butter is actually going to turn into 90 grams of butter because we're going to be losing 23 grams of water to evaporation as we do this process, and the milk solids at the bottom are gonna get toasty, and that's what's gonna give us all the flavor. But kind of a cool reaction. Now, because I can't stop yapping about butter, but this year is the year of the yap. I like to stir my butter constantly while it's browning, because otherwise I've noticed that if I kind of just let it go on its own, it'll have a tendency to sputter, and that just causes a little bit of butter chaos and just not a lot of fun. So I like to tend to my butter. It's only like 4 minutes that you really need to be watching it. And then as soon as you see the milk solids turn a really golden brown, then it's time to lower the heat. Keep an eye on it. Don't let it get too dark. So this is light brown butter right about now. Here I'm gonna turn off the heat because I don't want it to get too much darker. And this is something else that nobody talks about. I feel like I'm making like a pregnancy guide, like what to expect when you're expecting. Brown butter edition. But nobody talks about brown butter is so hot. I read recipes and it's like, take the brown butter, add the eggs immediately. And I'm like, you can't do that. We just took a fat and heated it up for a pretty significant amount of time. So you really want to let your brown butter cool down. So my favorite trick to kind of do that, and you'll see it in a lot of my recipes, is I like to add it in with an ingredient that I know is going to be cold-ish. So I'm adding it in here with the peaches and whisking that together so that they can be like a room temperature happy family. Now, this is not a reaction that I planned for this to have, but it's kind of cool. The butter, when you mix it together with the peaches, it kind of turns into like a mashed pumpkin texture, which whenever you mix brown butter with eggs, it like seizes in the same way. So it's kind of cool to see it do with peaches. Oh, that is a horrible sound. And then 2 eggs. And then this is where it differs from my banana bread recipe. We're gonna do 1 egg yolk. And normally I really don't like separating eggs from their family. AKA, I really don't like separating egg yolks and egg whites for anything. It's just like, it's a package deal. But here it's necessary because an egg yolk adds moisture as well as structure. With a banana bread recipe, you have the banana for a little bit more structure. In the peach bread, you do not. I just save my egg whites. I put them in my oatmeal. If you just whisk it in, you don't even notice it, and it's extra protein. So it's pretty good for you. 165 grams of sugar, 3/4 cup. And I'm not the biggest Domino sugar fan, but these tubs, I just keep buying the bags and I keep refilling them in these tubs. I think I've had this since I lived in New Jersey, and that was 4 years ago. Sugar whisks in really quickly. And I follow I call it the vanilla extract rule, which is if you have vanilla extract, totally feel free to add it. If you don't have vanilla extract, you don't need to buy it for this recipe. So currently I don't have it, which means you don't need to either. 1.5 cups of flour, so that's 210 grams. And then 2 teaspoons of baking powder and 1 teaspoon of kosher salt. And I mix this in with a spatula. It helps the cake develop less gluten. Gluten's a funny thing. If you're going crazy or like using an electric mixer or something, then I'd say you have to be worried about forming too much gluten. But if you're just using a normal whisk, mix it till everything comes together. I just like a spatula because it gets the job done. I've never followed the rules that how a batter tastes will indicate how a cake will taste. Like, I've had too many batters that tasted really good and the cake did not. So I don't think batter's a good indicator of anything. However, I will eat all my batter. Now, I'm gonna show you my parchment paper trick, and you have to promise to be nice. Last time I showed the internet, I got clowned. And it was really hurtful and also not justified. So what I like to do is I like to lay it flat over a loaf pan, kind of mark where the top corners of the loaf pan are, and then slice down to those corners 1, 2, 3, 4 times, you can see, and then fold it into the loaf pan. And then it just fits perfectly in. And the reason I got clowned is because in the video that I made, like showing this parchment paper trick, people were like, well, that takes 30 seconds and just greasing the pan takes 5. But greasing the pan, like by nature of the fact that you're putting oil or butter or whatever in your pan, is gonna change how your loaf bakes. It's gonna make it browner on the edges. It's gonna make it a little bit denser. Again, like a tiny difference, but I like parchment paper. I also like that you don't really have to prep your pan in any other way. So I'm gonna stick with my method, and the internet can continue to clown me. And my feelings will continue to be hurt. This by nature won't puff up as much as a banana bread will, but it'll still get a nice like little line down the center. And I just use a chopstick or a knife to make that line. Oh, it got all like dark and stormy all of a sudden. The way I edit this, you probably won't be able to tell, but I wish there was a way that I could edit these where like you could see the weather was like dark and stormy and the video itself didn't look black. It's like downpouring. I'll work on that later. Also, how's everybody doing? Is everybody hydrating? Everybody good? I used to have like an oven at a place that I rented, so the whole thing was just covered in grease, like you couldn't even see inside the oven. But now that I can actually see into my oven, I sometimes, not all the time because that would be weird, do watch things bake. And I also I'm getting more and more comfortable with the YouTube platform as I keep filming videos. This is the 4th one that I filmed. I'm not sure what I want to be the first video I put up yet, or the 2nd, or the 3rd, or the 4th. I just know that like yesterday's, the 3rd one, was like, it felt so fun, and I feel like I finally cracked like what I want to do with this long form platform. Because I don't know if you know this, but I used to have a show on YouTube called Snack, and it was really produced and it was really fun, but it was like I had a team of 2 helping me. It was very professional and buttoned up and everything was prepped, and it didn't feel exactly how I wanted a cooking show online to feel. I feel like right now we have so much freedom to kind of like do whatever we want on the internet. And when I was thinking about what I wanted to put in a show on YouTube, I thought about what I like best about my job. And what I like best is 1, creating beautiful videos, 2, making really good recipes, and 3, connecting with you all. And so when I wanted to make this YouTube series, I wanted it to feel like just us cooking, even if that does mean sitting on the floor and watching this peach loaf bake, which by the way, I forgot to set a timer. We'll go by intuition. It's actually looking pretty good. Yeah. All that to say, I've been having fun here. I hope you have too. Ugh, good talk. There's like a nice line. I'm so sorry to interrupt, but what she was just doing there, past me, that was a bit of a lie. And that's because it's a week later, I needed a peach bread restock, so instead of putting a line on top, I put, I put peaches. And it's just like that much better. You know, so I couldn't just let that video finish, which I had filmed it. I filmed it going in the oven, I filmed it going out of the oven, but I couldn't finish it in good faith, knowing that this small improvement kind of just made the bread that much better. And that's the other thing, is like recipes are living, breathing, beautiful things. So if you make one, mine or somebody else's, I like to think that you'll make it as it's written first, but then after that the recipe becomes yours. So things are meant to be tweaked, things are meant to be changed. I also changed it to 350 because I was monitoring my oven thermometer, and even though I had my oven set to 375, this baked much better at 350. Anyways, this is cooled a bit. I need some glamour shots. Come with me. I'm just gonna take it out. Not gonna lie, I'm impressed with this bread. It's like pound cake texture almost, but a little moister because of the peaches. You can see in this slice there's like a chunk of peach left in there. Let's get some ice cream on this one. It kind of looks like mashed potatoes, but in my defense, my ice cream was firm. Wait. Okay, I'm gonna back up in case I want to use this clip for a TikTok. It's so good. Oh my god, it tastes like peach pound cake, but it's a banana bread style hybrid of that. Oh, and it's just perfect in the summer. I will see you in the next one. Until then, like and subscribe, and please, for the love of all things that are good, please bake this.